decisions were initially how the process worked is we actually both individually saw all of the submissions from everyone, and I never actually remember the total count, but it was well over 300 submissions of individual artworks. It was, from my perspective anyway, I think in agreement, it was an extremely fun challenge trying to get that many works down to a number that could physically fit into this beautiful space. So I did just want to say before I hand it off to Fred, and we'll go back and forth with the mic, but just a big thanks to Allie Wilbur. I'm not sure if she's here, but for the initial invite. Thelma Sadal Center. Is she?
She is back there.
There
she is.
It was just a real pleasure to work on this and learn about so much work going on in the state right now. So I'm just going to pass this off to Fred for a second, and then we'll go back and forth with it.
Hi, thanks everybody for submitting your work. I'm one of these people who really believes in staying local on some level. Like I had a chance, I left briefly, tried New York out and thought, oh, screw this place. I'm coming back to Wisconsin. It's a great place to work. And I say there are three things artists need. And I think this shows a great example of that. You need time and space to make your work. Wisconsin's a great place to find that. You need community, and look who's here. Like this is just the community and most of the artists and their friends that are here today. So we've got that. And then you need your audience. Sometimes the community is your audience, sometimes the audience goes beyond that. But if you have those three things, you've got what it takes to be an artist. You don't need fame, you don't necessarily need very much money. I tell my students this all the time. It's like people are like, oh, but how do I make some money at it? And I know it's easier for me because I've made some money at it over the years. But I always tell people, it's like, people pay thousands of dollars to go ski at Vail, or to go take a vacation to Mexico, or the Caribbean, or Europe, right? They don't think twice about doing this thing that they love that's tremendously pleasurable. But somehow, when artists are making the work, they'll be like, damn it, I need some money for this. I make art because I love doing it. I'm lucky enough that I made money doing it. But I swear to God, if I didn't make a penny, maybe I'd be like, oh, nobody understands me, but I'd be making it anyway. I'm sure there are people skiing down the hills at Vail who kind of suck at it, right? But it's fun, and I'm going to do it anyway. Keep that in mind. There's a reason they pay you to go do a job. It's because if you didn't get paid, you wouldn't go. So everybody in this room, all these really wonderful artists, and it's a lot of great work in the show. It's really hard to jury this show because of the level of quality. You should all be really proud of the work you're doing. High level of craftsmanship, high level of concept. In some cases, it was very tough to come to terms, two people trying to decide what are the pieces, right? More than half the show, I feel like, easily could have been award-winning pieces, easily. And then there's a lot that's just damn interesting in its own right. So I think you guys should all give yourselves a round of applause for just sticking it out, staying in Wisconsin, making art, fighting the good fight, believing in what you do, living your life as an artist, because when you're an artist, you really don't have an alternative, unfortunately. Other than, I don't know what, something bad, suicide, prison, insurance, job, oh God. Lots of that. So anyway, congratulations, you guys. Round of applause.
I think that this was a really interesting kind of combination of two jurors as well, because I'm not an artist. I would describe myself as a curator, arts writer, independent publisher, numerous things where essentially my job is to judge art all the time. And in the best way possible. I was just thinking about, I think, just some of the opportunities that this kind of program affords in just terms of learning about who's around me. And the word community just keeps popping to mind. That ultimately my work, anybody who's not familiar, my own platform is called Young Space. I've run it for about 10 years, and it's almost entirely online. And I think that that's just something that the tools that we have technologically afford us these days. It's amazing that I can be based in a paper mill town in Wisconsin and be working with artists from all over the world. But also it's super important to be here, local, and to get to know people in person and to have these opportunities to get together with people. So it's interesting that this was one of those kind of programs that, I'm viewing a lot of this work online in order to kind of make an initial decision, but to be able to be here in a gallery space, meeting everyone, seeing the work in person, it never, ever is the same as looking at it online. And I think these opportunities to get everybody together in the same room and chatting and, you know, learning more about the work is just ever more important. And I'm just really happy that, you know, we have these opportunities to do that. So from a curatorial perspective, these are the opportunities that I look for. So I think, did you have anything else to add, or did you want to go into the awards?
If you knew me, you know I could talk for 4 hours straight. I will spare you guys that.
Awesome. So I think I'll just maybe make a couple comments about, we're going to announce awards. I think Jane's going to come back up here and actually hand them out. But some of the things I think is just kind of nice from a juror perspective to sort of give an idea of what we may be looking for. And not even just in the awards, but kind of what just kind of made it into the show to begin with. Overall, like Fred said, I think just kind of the overall quality of the work was super impressive. And I think it's also just really fascinating the diversity of genres, mediums, ideas that are all in one room, and they really packed it. We fit about as much work as we could possibly fit into these two spaces. So it's really exciting, I think, that even coming here to pick the award winners was way difficult. I mean, we had, you know, I had a long short list, so to speak. And I think that there were just sort of a kind of overlap of craftsmanship, subject matter to some extent, but also just to some extent also conceptual rigor. We were just really curious, I think, in terms of overlapping of these ideas, things that made you think, that maybe you see it in person, you're like, whoa, like even compared to what I thought I was looking at online, this feels completely different. And from a viewer perspective, maybe you're, you know, different people might get a different read on it. So I think things that really churned the mind a little bit were elements of what I was looking for. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
You know, if anybody wants to come up and challenge me to a physical wrestling match over my Jose's, I'm up for that. But no, I'm really, if you want, if anybody wants, there's a lot of work in the show that I'll come with.
Yeah.
There's so much work in the show that I was in love with, and I'm like, oh, here's an award winner, there's another one. Oh, I love this paint. I love this passage. I had to really stop myself from thinking that there's my teacher hat, like when I'm working with students and grad students in particular, which this works all at that level, right, at least, if not really seriously professional level. My tendency is to look at a thing and think, oh, I need to talk to them about that part of this, you know. So for me, I find a lot in work that I find really particularly interesting, but I know it's very personal for me. I'm getting excited about specific parts of things sometimes, or just the whole thing, it's my vibe. But when you're working collaboratively with somebody, you have to kind of reach this consensus. That said, so there are 3 awards, right? Which is just not enough, which is unfortunate, but it'd be great if there were 30, right? And even that wouldn't be enough for this show, I feel like. But at the same time, I was just saying earlier, if I counted the number of awards that I've won in my life versus the ones I haven't, it's like a 1 to 4,000 ratio. It's like, and I've done pretty well for myself. And same with shows I've been included in and not included in. It's like, again, 1 to 4,000. I've heard no so many times. The thing I finally learned over all these years is that community of artists, your friends, like I can still remember names when I'm like, damn it, my buddy got this opportunity or somebody had this show. But then somehow when it happened to me, I never felt bad for them. You know, it was like, oh, good for me. You know, so like, so I think there's this thing that we have to be more generous to each other. Remember that we are people, right? Kindness to each other as artists is super important. Generosity to each other, and just, this is kind of new agey, but I swear to God, I've seen it in my own life. The more generous I became with other people, the more it came back to me, right? So that's the thing to remind yourself. There's always going to be that kind of like, damn it, why not me? I worked my ass off for this, and I deserve this, and that's all true. But there's a certain amount of it that's just random, and if you keep plugging away, that randomness is going to land on you at some point. So the key is to just be out there when that randomness is raining around. You don't want it to miss you. So what you guys are doing, the fact that you're here, that you participate, that you enter the show, that you're actively working all the time, you're improving your craft, you're improving your thoughts, you're improving your art all the time, that's what it means to be an artist, right? It doesn't mean whatever rewards you get. I mean, I never will forget this time when I was a young artist. I was in Milwaukee, and they had just bought this giant Julian Schnabel painting, right? At the time, I thought, man, I want to go to New York. I'm going to like wear, you know, Armani suits, and I'm going to live in Soho, and I'm going to be famous, right? And then Julian Schnabel's a notorious jackass, right? But he's there talking about this piece. And somebody in the Q&A said to him, they just bought this 15-foot painting. He's there doing his talk. In the Q&A, somebody said to him, And at the time, he was the most famous artist in America. I said, what is it like to be the most famous artist in America? And he said this thing that really stuck with me. He said, how famous is any artist, really, say, compared to like Burt Reynolds? Now, at the time, you have to understand that Burt Reynolds was already an incredibly washed-up actor. And he knew that. And that was his point. Like, the most washed-up actor is like 1,000 times more famous than the most famous artist, right? So, try to keep all that and some other, I don't know. Like, it's great to want to be famous, right? It's great to want all the things that you want. It's great to want to just blow up the world, right? But keep that in the studio. And then when you go out in the world, just be a human being, and that's how things happen. I found out that the less of a pain, I've got this sign on my door. I didn't put it there. Somebody put it on my door in my studio in Madison. It says, not an asshole. And that's like rule number one for an artist outside of the studio. You can be the biggest jerk in the studio you want, but when you leave the studio, number one, don't be an asshole. So, for what it's worth.
All right, so I think I can announce, yeah. So we start with number 3. Okay. So third place goes to A Short Stay in the Library of Babel by Darren Larson.
Yay!
Second place.
She's here. She's here.
All right, second place, Terry Warpinski, Shelter.
Yay! Yay!
All right, and first place is right behind you, Ian Birk. I think I'm getting that name right. Arboreal Anglers. Thank you very much.